If you see a hawk circling your house, your first instinct is probably to worry about something. The small birds at your feeder, the cat on the porch, whatever is down there that a hawk might want. That instinct makes sense. It is what most people assume. But here is what the science actually says, and it is going to change the way you read that slow circle in the sky above your yard for the rest of your life. Welcome back to the Bird Oracle. Subscribe before you keep going, because what you are about to learn is one of those things that once you know it, you cannot unknow it. And by the end of this video, the next time you see a hawk circling above your neighborhood, you are not going to feel what you felt before. There are 8 things happening when a hawk circles your house. Most people only ever consider one of them. We are going to go through all of them, and we are going to save the last one for the end, because the last one is not about hunting at all. It is about something researchers only recently began to understand, and it is the thing that changes everything. Number 1. The hawk is not circling because it sees prey. This is the assumption almost everyone makes, and it is almost always wrong. A hawk that has spotted prey does not circle. It watches, it drops. The attack is direct, fast, and committed. A red-tailed hawk in a full hunting stoop reaches speeds of up to 120 miles per hour. There is no slow circling involved in that sequence. Circling, what ornithologists call kettling when it involves multiple birds, and thermal soaring when it involves a single bird, is something else entirely. When a hawk circles above your yard in that wide, unhurried arc, wings spread and almost perfectly still, it is riding air. Specifically, it is riding a thermal, a column of warm air rising from the ground that acts like an invisible elevator. Hawks, vultures, and eagles have evolved to read the landscape for these invisible columns of rising air the way a sailor reads wind. They locate them, enter them, and ride them upward with almost no energy expenditure at all. Your house is part of why that thermal exists. Dark rooftops absorb heat and release it as rising air. Pavement, driveways, open lawns, all of these create the thermal columns that a circling hawk is reading. When a hawk circles above your house is, in a real sense, what is lifting it. Number 2. The hawk is mapping. A hawk that is riding a thermal is not passive. It is working. From altitude, a red-tailed hawk can resolve detail at a distance 4 to 8 times greater than a human eye at the same distance. What looks to you like a bird drifting in idle circles is actually an animal running an extraordinarily detailed visual scan of everything below it. It is reading the landscape, the movement patterns of prey across multiple fields, the location of fence posts and telephone poles it might use as hunting perches later, the position of other hawks and whether any of them are in territory it considers its own. The hawk is not idly circling. It is collecting information at a resolution and processing speed that we do not have good instruments to fully measure yet. Researchers studying red-tailed hawk behavior in suburban landscapes have documented that individual hawks return to the same thermal columns above the same neighborhoods repeatedly, not because prey is reliably there, but because the thermal is reliably there. The hawk has mapped a route of invisible elevators across its territory, and your house may be one of the regular stops. Number 3. It has been here before. Red-tailed hawks are among the most territorially faithful birds in North America. A breeding pair will hold and defend the same territory for years, sometimes for more than a decade. The hawk above your house is almost certainly not a hawk that wandered in from somewhere distant this morning. It is a local. It has a name in the data of every birdbander who has worked in your county, even if you do not know it yet. Studies tracking banded, red-tailed hawks in suburban and semi-rural areas have found territory fidelity rates above 85% across multiple years. That hawk has a territory. Your yard is probably inside it. It has been inside it for longer than you have been watching. What this means is that the hawk you see circling today, and the hawk you saw circling 6 months ago, and the hawk your neighbor mentioned last spring are, with very high probability, the same bird, the same individual, riding the same thermal, mapping the same landscape it has known for years. Number 4. It is not a threat to your songbirds the way you think. Red-tailed hawks eat mammals, primarily voles, mice, rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks. The dietary breakdown from long-term prey studies puts small mammals at roughly 85 to 90% of the red-tailed hawk's diet across most of North America. Birds represent a small fraction of what they actually eat, and the birds they do take are almost never the species at your feeder. There is something almost counterintuitive in what actually happens at feeders when a red-tailed hawk appears overhead. The songbirds freeze. They go completely still and silent in a way that is almost eerie if you have never seen it before. The feeder empties in seconds. But this response, this collective stillness, is itself a defense that works. A hawk hunting from altitude has its attack efficiency drop dramatically when prey stops moving. The stillness of your songbirds in the presence of a red tail is not panic. It is a highly evolved response that has been working for millions of years. The hawk circling above your feeder is, in practical terms, not a meaningful threat to the birds eating from it. It is there for the field mouse in your lawn, the vole beneath your garden bed, the squirrel that has been too casual about crossing open ground. Number 5. Your yard called it here. This is the part that most people do not think about, and it is worth sitting with. If a hawk is circling your house regularly, it is not random. Your yard is producing something the hawk has learned to associate with reliable return. Usually, that means you have good rodent habitat. Dense ground cover, brush piles, unmown edges, garden beds, compost areas. All of these are the kind of structure that supports the small mammal populations that a red-tailed hawk depends on. In a meaningful sense, the hawk is a signal about your yard's ecological health. A yard complex enough to support mice and voles and chipmunks is a yard that is functioning as habitat. The hawk overhead is, in a way, a measure of that. It found your yard because your yard is genuinely alive. Bird feeders contribute to this too, though not the way most people assume. Spilled seed beneath feeders supports rodent populations. Those rodents attract hawks. So the feeder you put out for the cardinals and chickadees has, through a chain of ecological connections most people never trace, made your yard more attractive to the hawk circling above it. The birds you feed led the hawk to your lawn. Number 6. It may be apparent. In late spring and early summer, the behavior of red-tailed hawks above suburban neighborhoods changes. The birds become more active, more visible, often louder. The distinctive descending call of the red-tail, the sound that Hollywood has used as the default sound effect for every eagle ever filmed despite the fact that it belongs to a completely different bird, becomes a regular feature of the late morning sky. This is nesting season, and a hawk circling your house in May or June is very likely a parent provisioning young. Red-tailed hawks nest in tall trees, often at the edges of open areas, and they hunt a radius that typically extends several miles from the nest. Your yard may be well inside that radius. What looks like aimless circling in a breeding season context is active searching for the calories needed to feed nestlings that double their body weight in the first 2 weeks of life. A pair of red-tailed hawks with a brood of 2 or 3 nestlings needs to make dozens of successful kills per week during peak nesting. The hawk above your house is working harder than it looks, for reasons that have nothing to do with the birds at your feeder and everything to do with a nest you have probably never seen. In a tall tree, somewhere within a mile of where you are standing. Number 7. Other birds know something you don't. Pay attention to what the rest of your yard does when the hawk appears. Not just the songbirds going still, which happens fast and is easy to miss. Watch the American crows. If there are crows in your area, and in most of North America there are, they will find the hawk. They will mobbing it. 2 or 3 crows harassing a single red-tailed hawk, diving at it, calling loudly, forcing it to break its thermal and move on. This behavior is called mobbing, and it is one of the most reliable hawk detectors in the natural world. Smaller birds watch the crows. When crows mob, every bird in earshot updates its threat assessment. The mobbing call of an American crow is one of the signals that songbirds across many species have learned to read as a reliable indicator of raptor presence, even when they cannot see the hawk themselves. The social network of your yard is doing something in real time that you are mostly not aware of. A distributed alert system that processes and transmits threat information faster and more reliably than anything you could set up yourself. The hawk is not just interacting with the landscape. It is interacting with a community of birds that have developed collective responses to it over thousands of years. Number 8. It came to your yard for the same reason you watch your yard. This is the one I want you to sit with. A red-tailed hawk has a territory it knows the way you know your neighborhood. It has mapped it, returned to it, and learned the details of it over years. The thermal columns, the hunting perches, the rodent runs beneath the garden beds, the precise angle of the sun in late afternoon that makes it easier to spot movement in the grass. It knows these things, the way you know which drawer the scissors are in, the way you know the sound of your own door. When it circles above your house, it is in familiar space. It is in a place it knows, doing what it has always done, in a territory that includes your yard and your feeder and your roof, and the thermal your roof generates, and the mice your garden shelters, all of it part of a landscape that a specific, individual bird has known for years. You have been sharing your yard with this bird the entire time you have been in your house. You looked up occasionally and saw a hawk. It looked down regularly and saw you, knew your roof, knew your yard, folded your house into the map of the world it has been building for as long as it has been alive. That circle above your house is not random. It is not ominous. It is not a threat. It is a living animal, a specific individual with a history and a territory and a family it may be hunting for, returning to a place it knows, riding the warm air your house sends up into the sky, looking down at the world it has always lived in. You were always part of that world. You are only now beginning to understand what that means. Have you noticed a hawk circling your yard regularly? Have you seen the songbirds freeze? Or watched the crows go up to chase it off? Tell me about it in the comments below. I read every one of them. And if this changed the way you think about the sky above your house, share it with someone who watches their yard, because the hawk they've been looking at, they may have known it longer than they realize. Subscribe to the Bird Oracle. I'll see you in the next one.